Good evening, and welcome to the place where the world grows quieter, where knowledge speaks softly, like the whisper of wind, where even the most astonishing facts about our planet feel less like loud discoveries and more like gentle thoughts that soothe and calm. Welcome to a space where you can learn and drift into sleep, where you can listen and let go of everything unnecessary, where every story about Earth sounds so serene, as if the planet itself is telling it. Tonight, we're going on a journey into one of the most fascinating sciences, geography. But not the one from school, not strict, not dry. A soft, deep, almost sleepy geography. One that reveals itself only at night, when the world slows down and the mind becomes more open, more sensitive, more peaceful. Let me say, I'm glad you're here. Glad you found a moment to allow yourself a little silence, a little stillness, a little space to breathe. Because geography is not just a map, not just continents, altitudes, and temperatures. Geography is the poetry of the planet. It is its breath, its shape, its memory. It is the story Earth has been telling for millions of years. And a story we can hear if we slow down even for a moment. Now, as you settle in comfortably, feel how your body finds its place, how your pillow shapes itself to your head, how your muscles gently release tension, how your breathing turns softer, quieter, longer. Tonight, we will explore 100 astonishing facts about our planet. But don't worry, you don't need to think, you don't need to remember, you don't need to hold on to every idea. We will move slowly, very slowly as if the night itself were guiding us by the hand, as if every story were a step toward silence, toward rest, toward sleep. These 100 facts are not a list, they are a flow, a peaceful river of knowledge. You may drift in it like a leaf on water, or simply listen as if to a distant, quiet sea. And even if you fall asleep before reaching the 100th fact, that's wonderful. That's perfect. That's exactly the goal. You may let go of the sound, let go of thought, let go of yourself into the gentle depth of night. But before we begin, let me softly tune your rhythm, smoothly, gently, the way one tunes a string before a beautiful melody. If you wish, take a slow breath. Not forced, not deep, but as if you're in no hurry. As if the entire world became wider for a second. And a slow exhale. Just let the air leave on its own, without effort. Feel how relaxation already begins in this motion. How you begin returning to yourself. How the night begins. Now take another soft breath. Imagine inhaling cool air from the sea, or the scent of forest after rain, or the silence of a deep valley, and a smooth exhale, as if the weight of the day becomes lighter, as if the mind becomes softer, as if you are entering a place where you can simply be. Geography is Earth's breath. Its mountains are its bones. Its forests, its lungs. Its oceans, the blood coursing through the veins of the planet. Its deserts, its quiet places. Its sky, its mood. Its winds, its thoughts. Tonight, we will listen to the earth, quietly, carefully, as one listens to the breathing of a child nearby, as one listens to waves at night, as one listens to one's own heart before sleep. You will hear stories of places so incredible it's hard to believe they exist. You will learn about countries with no rivers, underwater waterfalls, deserts that once were icy seas, mountains that glow, air that sings, forests that can move, rivers that vanish and return. But all of this will sound softly, not like astonishment, but like quiet revelation. Not like, wow, but like, interesting. Not like a loud fact, but like a slow, sleepy whisper. Because our goal is not to overwhelm you, but to lull you. Not to astonish, but to gently submerge you in calm. Not to make you think, but to let you dissolve into sound. Tonight, we will explore geography as if we are looking at it through a sleepy lens. When shapes become rounded, details become fluid, and the world itself becomes less sharp, less demanding, less noisy. In the light of night, geography becomes music, and we will follow it, step by step, fact by fact, slowly, deeply, gently. And if at some point your mind begins to float, if thoughts become difficult to hold, if your eyelids become heavy, let it happen. That means we're on the right path. That night is doing its work. That the world is fading away, leaving only quiet. Tonight you may be an explorer, gazing at Earth with wonder, or a wanderer walking without a map because the road leads itself, or simply a person lying in the dark and listening. That's wonderful too. Let this evening be gentle. Let it be light. Let it be a moment when the world doesn't demand anything, but simply reveals its beauty slowly, softly, pleasantly. And now, as your breathing has slowed, as you found your place, as the night has come a little closer, we may begin. Let these 100 extraordinary geography facts be your quiet journey, your soft road into sleep, your story for the night. Welcome, and enjoy the journey. There are places on this planet so unusual that it feels as though nature created them just to remind us our world is far stranger than we imagine. And when you hear about such places at night, in that soft half-sleep, they feel like legends. Quiet stories that the earth whispers just before you drift deeper into dreams. Imagine a country where there is not a single true river, not a single stream running across the land, not one flowing ribbon of surface water you could step over or follow. The ground there is dry and even, as if someone gently pulled all the veins of water inward beneath the surface. This place is one of the most remarkable geographic phenomena, a state where all the water lives underground. Subterranean channels, subterranean lakes, a whole hidden world of silent movement. Even if you look at a map, there is only emptiness. But it is not the emptiness of absence, it is the emptiness of quiet. As though this land learned to drink water the way a sleeper takes a breath, silently, softly, without a sound. And now, imagine a lake that boils by itself. Not because fire was cast upon it, but because the earth below exhales warm breath into its waters. It bubbles gently, lifting dome-shaped pockets of steam toward the surface. If you stand beside it at dusk, when the air cools and the world dims, it feels like the lake radiates the warmth of a hidden realm. A realm of magma, molten stone, deep planetary forces. In the drifting mist above its surface, some people see something soothing, a rhythm. A slow, even rhythm of rising and vanishing bubbles, like thoughts dissolving as sleep approaches. There is also a place where two bodies of water meet and refuse to merge. Two oceans touch, flowing side by side, yet the boundary between them remains visible. A wide, shimmering seam of different shades of blue. All because of differences in density, salinity, and temperature. They are like two worlds that know they must coexist, yet are not yet ready to become one. Their boundary resembles that gentle border between waking and dreaming, when the mind still floats in awareness, yet already flows towards something more fluid, more peaceful. And in one stretch of desert, stones move by themselves. At first glance, they are just dark rocks resting on an expanse of smooth clay. But if you return months later, the stones have shifted slightly, leaving long trails behind them. It is as though they wandered secretly at night when no one was watching. Long, straight, or winding tracks extend onward across the plain, disappearing into the unknown. Their motion is explained by subtle ice films, by wind, by moisture. But what they feel like, when you hear of them in the darkness, is magic. As if the land itself awakens at night and performs its silent, slow dance. A dance most visible to those who listen to the world with closed eyes. Beneath our feet, too, miracles flow. There are rivers longer than many above ground, but they move in total darkness, between layers of stone, through corridors humans might walk alongside for days. These waters know no sunlight, no moon reflection, no wind stirring the surface. They know only rock, and time, and silence. And if you try to imagine them, an unexpected feeling arises, a deep serenity, as if the earth stores its quietest memories in those hidden streams. But not only underground do extraordinary stories resonate, even deserts can sing. When billions of sand grains shift together, they produce an unusual, low hum, like a distant organ, or the murmur of a voice carried on air, or a subtle vibration through the bones. This sound appears when dry dunes slide downward, one grain nudging another like soft dominoes. If you have ever heard it, you know. It is not just a sound. It is a sensation, almost physical, almost meditative. There is calm within it. There is depth. It feels like the desert is breathing, offering its own lullaby to the night.
Even more astonishing, some trees have been alive for 10,000 years.
Imagine a living being that grew when there were no cities, no organized civilizations, when the stars above felt like the only eternal shelter. These trees have survived ice ages, storms, extinctions, the rise of human culture. Their roots are anchors sunk into time. Their trunks are pages of a primordial chronicle. If you placed your hand upon their bark, you might feel time itself humming, softly, almost imperceptibly, like the breath of an ancient world. And somewhere high in the mountains, there are glaciers that glow from within. Not brightly, not blindingly, but with a tender, bluish light, as though someone set a lantern beneath the ice. This light is the sky's reflection, captured and suspended within frozen water. The ice holds it the way memory holds childhood dreams, deeply in many layers. When the sun sets,
that glow remains, shimmering within cracks like a tiny river of light, frozen between cold and silence. There are rocks shaped by time and pressure that appear like petrified waves of stone. Vast ridges curved into beautiful arcs, crests of motion that never fell, as if the landscape had begun to move and then stopped in mid-breath. Bent layers of earth, frozen in slow motion, as though the land itself inhales and exhales gradually, heavily, yet beautifully. These forms were sculpted over millions of years by wind, by compression, by patience. The result is a landscape that looks soft, even though it is solid stone, a reminder that even rock can learn grace. And finally, there are islands that appear and disappear. Sometimes, after mighty underwater eruptions, a newborn piece of land rises, dark, steaming, wild. It lives for a while, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades, and then quietly sinks back beneath the waves, dissolving into the ocean, returning to water like a fading thought. These islands are the most transient of all landscapes, like dreams surfacing from the subconscious. They emerge from the deep, exist for a time, and then slip gently back into silence. All these wonders are parts of the earth seldom spoken about, yet it is these quiet oddities that remind us of the strangeness of our home. How many secrets it holds, not in haste, but in slow turning cycles of being. How many marvels nature performs at the pace of eternity, as though the planet itself dreams. And when you hear these stories at night, it feels as if you are touching those rhythms, that deep quiet, that slow breathing of the world. While the earth spins silently in space, its mysteries continue unfolding, softly, patiently, sleepily. And all you need to do is listen and allow yourself to drift into rest. If you listen to the planet at night, you can almost hear how it breathes through its oceans. Not loudly, not turbulently, but deeply and gently, like the breath of a sleeping being. Each wave is an inhale. Each quietening of water is an exhale. And in that vast body of moving water, there are so many strange and wondrous phenomena that the ocean begins to feel like a universe of its own, living by private laws. Somewhere in the depths of the Pacific lies a place so deep that light has never touched it, so dark that even time seems thicker there. The Mariana Trench is like a scar on Earth's body, but a scar not wounded, rather ancient and majestic. Its bottom lies deeper than airplanes fly above us, down where pressure is so enormous that metal would fold like paper. Yet the ocean holds this abyss gently, supporting it as though protecting its most secret dream. And if you imagine this place at night, as you yourself drift towards sleep, the depth of that trench feels akin to the depth of the human mind. Shadowed, soft, infinite. Beside these depths exist phenomena that seem impossible. Underwater waterfalls. Yes, real waterfalls, but beneath the surface. Where warm seawater meets colder, denser water, entire cascades form, plunging downward like rivers within the ocean. These submerged streams flow as grandly as waterfalls on land, only the silence is deeper there. In that muffled aquatic calm, each downward rush looks as if it were created for meditation. Slow, graceful, like the movement of dreams. Oceans are older than many mountains. They existed long before the first ridges rose, before the crust of the earth bent into towering folds. Water knew the world when it was still young. It bore witness to the birth of continents, the drift of tectonic plates, the rise of the earliest forms of life. Every drop is a memory, a moment that has survived billions of years. And when you hear the sound of the ocean, even if only as a recording, there is a sense that you're hearing the oldest song this planet has ever sung. Sometimes, within the ocean, there are rivers. Yes, actual rivers, but not on the surface, deep below. They flow through underwater canyons, curve around hills, carve their own valleys. The current of these rivers is so dense that it moves separately from the surrounding sea, obeying its own hidden rules. If a person could float beside one, they would see a landscape that resembles the Earth's, only everything would be blue and calm and quiet. Underwater rivers are among the most surreal gifts of geography, a reminder that water has layers, dimensions, personalities, almost like human thoughts. And alongside these rivers lie underwater lakes, small seas within the larger sea. They shine with a dense luminosity, mirroring the surrounding formations, sometimes with distinct shores. Their salinity is so high that it separates from the ocean above them like a glossy, trembling membrane. In these lakes, you can see ripples, real, miniature, delicate waves, as though the ocean built a secret collection of mirrors hidden beneath its floor. But if the ocean can be tranquil, it can also be magical. Imagine a night when the water begins to glow. This is not the reflection of stars. This is life itself. Billions of tiny organisms flare with blue light when waves brush the shore or a boat cuts through the water. The entire sea becomes a living neon tapestry. Each droplet is a spark, each movement a pulse. This is bioluminescence, one of nature's most poetic phenomena. When you look at it in silence, it feels as though the ocean opens its eyes for just a moment, then gently closes them again and returns to sleep. But the largest waves on the planet are not the ones we see on the surface. The tallest, most massive waves are underwater. Where currents collide with submerged mountain ranges, colossal internal waves form, sometimes taller than skyscrapers. They move slowly, silently, majestically, like vast sleeping beasts. And no one sees them. Yet these hidden waves regulate climate, circulate nutrients, drive the motion of life itself. This is the secret pulse of the ocean, concealed but essential. Beneath that hidden realm rise mountains that are taller than Everest, yet never break the surface. The highest of these, Mauna Kea, rises from the ocean floor almost 10 kilometers upward. That is greater than Everest's height above sea level. But Mauna Kea conceals most of itself beneath the quiet water. It exists in a silent world where no light reaches, where pressure and cold shape reality into something almost cosmic. And if you think about it, the ocean is in some places no less a cosmic expanse than the night sky. We are simply more accustomed to looking upward rather than downward. Sometimes oceans vanish. They depart. They reveal their floor. This happened in deep past eras when enormous cavities beneath the crust shifted shape and the seas simply drained down, like water pouring from a tilted bowl. And then, thousands of years later, they returned. Water always returns. It always finds a path. It may retreat, but return is its nature. There is something deeply comforting in that even if the world changes, even if something leaves, it may come back again. Life always finds a way. Water reminds us of this. And in one quiet corner of the world, there is a place where lightning strikes. Every night. For years. For decades. A perpetual storm. The sky there flashes so frequently that it is as though someone continuously flicks a lantern on and off. This loud phenomenon sounds like thunder, yet in the distance at night, it looks like the sky is breathing, steady, pulsing, eternal. In this rhythm of repeating light, thousands of bursts each night, there is a strange harmony, like a heartbeat, like the ticking of time itself. The ocean is the heart of Earth, and all these phenomena are pulses of that heart. Depths, waterfalls, glowing seas, submarine rivers, oceans that come and go, mountains hidden in darkness, waves larger than any we see above. And when you listen to this at night, slowly, gently, without needing to understand or remember anything at all, you become part of that soft movement, part of the world's ocean, part of the Earth's breathing. And each of these facts is not a surprise. It is a soothing, a quiet descent, a step toward rest, a step toward sleep. When we speak of mountains, we tend to think we know the essential thing. Everest is the highest peak. But if Earth could smile, it would do so at this very moment, because it knows height is a relative idea. Somewhere in the middle of the Pacific stands a giant far taller than Everest, though the top of it is hidden beneath water. Mauna Kea, the volcano of Hawaii, is a mountain whose true height rests unseen in the ocean's depths. If measured from its base on the seafloor to its summit above the waves, it is the tallest mountain on the planet. And there is something deeply calming in this. The greatest things are not always visible. Sometimes the magnificent resides quietly beneath the surface, where no one thinks to look. But even the mountains we do see are never still. They are rising, slowly, very slowly, at fractions of an inch each year. Under the pressure of tectonic plates, the land lifts them as though pushing them upward like breath. Each summit is not simply stone. It is motion, continuing even as people sleep. Mountains remind us that life advances even when we believe everything has stopped. Their growth is like the Earth's slow inhale, so long that one human life cannot see it, only sense it, if one listens with the inner ear. Deserts hold their secrets as well. Once, they were green, filled with forests, rivers, and scattered valleys. In the sands of the Sahara, one still finds fossil roots, ancient shells, traces of vanished streams. Millions of years ago, it was a garden, a world teeming with water and life and sense. Today, it is an ocean of dunes. But the desert has not forgotten. Every grain of sand is a memory of leaves, of animals, of rainfall. If you listen to the wind sweeping across it, it seems to speak of a time when this place was alive. The desert is the past dissolved into the present, and there is quiet beauty in this. Everything changes, but nothing truly disappears. Those wide plains that seem endless and flat were once oceans. Where grass now waves and roads run straight, long ago waves danced and currents murmured. Geology preserves these stories in buried layers of salt, in fossil shells, in patterns visible only from great height. The earth carries beneath its crust traces of ancient worlds. These plains are like pages of a book whose ink has faded, yet the sentences can still be read if one knows how to look. And if you reflect on this before falling asleep, you may feel that the world itself is an enormous story written by the earth to itself. There are mountains made not of stone, but of ice. Vast frozen ridges, clear and blue like breath crystallized, stand on the edges of the world. They expand and contract. They move and fracture. Ice cracks like glass, but holds its form like steel. These icy mountains are like a dream that Earth sees and partially erases each winter and summer. They remind us of the fragility of existence and its strength at the same time. And when the sun touches them, they glow not fiercely, but softly, lit as if from within. Some places sing, truly sing, not with voices but with stone. In certain landscapes, wind passes through narrow canyons so that the rock begins to hum with deep, vibrating tones. Sometimes it is a low reverberation, sometimes a high, thin keening, sometimes like an organ note held in the air. If you stand there in silence, it feels like the land is speaking with the wind, or as if the world is performing an old melody that was never written down, yet everyone can somehow hear. It is one of those experiences that cannot be forgotten. The songs of stone sound like the earth's voice, ancient, slow, soothing. In other landscapes, the shapes are so unusual that one feels as though they belong on another planet. Death Valley, fossilized lava fields, ochre and violet cliffs, dunes of wildly varied shades. All these create the sensation of stepping into a fantastical realm. Yet in that strangeness resides tranquility, and in that alienness, a familiarity. For Earth knows how to be varied. It knows how to surprise. These unusual forms of terrain are reminders that beauty is not always gentle. It can be strange, surreal, dreamlike. But perhaps nowhere does silence resonate as deeply as in one of the quietest deserts on the planet. There is no wind, no murmur, no movement. Sound seems to vanish, so completely that a person begins hearing their own body, the beat of the heart, the movement of blood, the faint creak of joints. In that silence, there is something unsettling, yet profoundly calming, as though the world finally stills so completely that you become part of stillness, as though the desert places a finger to its lips and whispers, "Listen." And in that silence, one can hear oneself more clearly, more honestly, more intimately. Sometimes snow falls not white, but red, green, or yellow. This happens when microscopic organisms tint the crystals in unexpected colors. Imagine a polar night, endless quiet, deep cold, and a slope glowing rose-colored, or a pale blue field that seems brushed with moonlight. It feels like something from a tale, too beautiful to be real, yet entirely true. Nature delights in playing with color, even in places where it seems that only white should exist. And in some places on Earth, waves have been made of stone. Enormous ridges of rock seem frozen mid-crest, as if an ocean suddenly turned to sculpture. Smooth lines, flowing curves. They look like fragments of some great dance that nature performed once and chose to preserve forever. Stone waves stand motionless, but they still carry the impression of movement, as though they retain the memory of ancient wind, ancient water, ancient time. And as a person walks beside them, they may feel the rhythm hidden in stone. All these landscapes, mountains, deserts, glacial peaks, stone waves, show how alive our planet is. It changes, moves, grows, sings, breathes. In the quietest places, in the strangest shapes, in the most unexpected colors. And when night falls upon the world, these forms seem softer still, as though coming closer, as though becoming more familiar. Mountains remind us of strength, deserts of memory, forests of time, ice of transparency, stone of patience, and all together of the truth that Earth is living. And if we listen to it at night, we can hear it tell us, everything flows, everything changes, everything continues. And as you listen to this, you may feel your breathing slow just a bit, your body sink deeper into softness, your thoughts becoming lighter, like grains of desert sand carried off by wind. That means only one thing: you are on the right path, the path that leads toward rest. If you look at a map of the world by daylight, the borderlines seem rigid, firm, authoritative, as though they were carved into stone. But at night, when the eyes grow softer and thoughts grow quieter, these lines appear different. They transform into thin threads linking people, lands, cultures. And each of those threads carries with it peculiarities, quiet mysteries, gentle stories that the earth offers to those who dwell upon it. There is a country that has no capital, not because it is too small, not because it forgot to choose one, but because the entire land is a balanced distribution of importance. In this country, there is no main city. Each is significant in its own way. And this strangely resembles a philosophy of equilibrium, as though the land itself tells its people, you are not greater, not lesser, simply part of the whole. And in this evenness, there is a calming presence, a soft kind of fairness, as if the land chose quiet over hierarchy. There is also a city that belongs to two countries at once. It stands upon the border so precisely that the dividing line passes through houses, streets, even living rooms. In a cafe, one might sit in one country, while a cup on the table rests in another. People there live between worlds, stepping across the border as easily as one adjusts a pillow at night. A city that breathes twice, with two rhythms, two cultures, two laws, yet remains one, whole, serene. Somewhere on this planet exists a country so new it can be compared to a young sprout among ancient trees. It is still finding its path, its story, its shape. Its age is only a few decades, and it reminds us that the world is still changing. That new countries can emerge the way new thoughts do, quietly, sometimes painfully, but inevitably. And this carries an inspiration. The map of our world is not finished. It is still being written. But there are territories where humans do not step, not because entry is forbidden, but because life there simply cannot exist. Too hot, too cold, too toxic, too dangerous. These lands are like blank patches on antique maps, places where nature says, this space is not for you. Sometimes there is a harsh beauty in this refusal. Sometimes a deep peace. A quiet knowing that Earth still preserves rooms meant only for itself. But if there are places of emptiness, there are also places where life overflows with intense energy. Imagine a location where people are so numerous that every meter is movement, history, breath. The highest population density in the world resembles a rushing river of humanity. People live so close that space between them almost dissolves. And yet in that closeness, there is rhythm, there is pulse, as though the entire country is a heart, beating fast yet harmoniously. And the opposite of that, a place where scarcely anyone lives at all, where one can walk for hours without meeting another person, where silence becomes almost tangible. This territory, with the lowest population density on Earth, feels like the room where the planet stores its thoughts. There, wind knows more stories than human voices. There, space echoes not with sound, but with its own expansive stillness. And when a person finds themselves there, they feel not absence but freedom, spaciousness, quiet expansion. There are borders only a few meters long, so short they can be crossed in only a few steps. And yet these microscopic lines divide nations. They serve as reminders of how arbitrary human separations can be. How easily the world could be whole if we had not drawn our lines across it. But even these tiny borders carry history, meaning, symbolism, like tiny marks upon a vast page. Somewhere there is a country where hundreds of dialects are spoken. Each village is a separate music, each valley its own language, each shoreline its own story. To listen to this country is like listening to a choir of voices that never repeat. It speaks of how rich human culture can be, how full the world becomes when people do not resemble one another. And all of that in one small piece of land. There exist places that are countries contained inside cities, tiny territories enclosed by immense urban worlds, small yet sovereign, like little islands of independence. There, the border runs along sidewalks, through buildings, across courtyards. But perhaps one of the most mysterious places on Earth is a patch of land that belongs to no one. A small, forgotten space between established borders that was claimed by none. Unwanted, unassigned, without flag or government or citizenry. And yet it exists, sits quietly beneath the sky, carrying within it a peculiar freedom. Land belonging to no one, reminding us that the world sometimes leaves room for emptiness, for unowned calm. When you look at these strange territories at night, in lamplight or in half-dream, they stop being mere facts. They become reflections of how varied the world is, of how it is shaped not by rigid rules, but by intricate, evolving logic of geography and history. How we humans pour our stories, our lines, our meanings into this living map. And the most remarkable thing? Even the strangest borders, the rarest countries, the oddest enclaves sound softer at night. They lose their tension. They lose their politics. They turn into pure geography, bare and clean as breath. The world map at night is not a list of states. It is a tapestry of stories, a rhythm of human presence, a set of dreams the earth has whispered for centuries. And as you listen to these stories, you may feel your awareness dissolving gently into this soft geography, as if you yourself become one of those quiet lines upon the map, flexible, fluid, peaceful. Because everything that makes Earth strange, unusual, unique, is what makes it alive. And what makes your rest a little deeper, your night a little quieter, your sleep a little softer. When people imagine cold, they usually picture something harsh, sharp, piercing. But the true polar regions are not about sharpness. True cold is soft, quiet, enveloping. It sounds like the deep inhale of winter air. It rests on the land as peacefully as a blanket on a sleeping body. And far to the south, At the edge of the inhabited world lies Antarctica, the largest desert on Earth. Yes, a desert. Not sandy, not hot, but frozen. A desert is not defined by temperature, but by the absence of moisture. And in Antarctica, moisture is nearly non-existent. Snow falls rarely. The air is so dry that ice crystals do not melt. They simply cling to one another, forming a white ocean of stillness. And if you imagine this place at night, you can almost hear the absence of sound. Only the wind, and even that is muted, weary, as though it too slows down in the presence of this immense quiet. But beneath this icy desert lies a different face of the earth. There, in total darkness, beneath kilometers of solid ice, exist hot springs, fire beneath frost, life beneath cold, warmth within eternal winter. These underground sources rise from the depths, carrying the same energy we associate with volcanoes. But here, hidden under the silence of Antarctica, that energy remains unseen. It is as though the Earth guards this heat carefully, protecting it from disturbance, allowing it to remain a private part of its inner rhythm. The ice that covers Antarctica is not merely old, it is ancient. There are places where the ice is nearly 3 million years in age. It is older than rivers, older than human ancestors, older than lions, elephants, forests, languages, myths. This ice is an archive of time. Within it are bubbles of air preserved from vanished ages. And if you were to press your ear against a massive wall of ice, you could imagine hearing the quiet whisper of the past. Not loud, barely audible, but present, hidden deep, like a dream forgotten yet still lingering somewhere in memory. And there are places where ice never melts. Not in summer, not in spring, not ever. Even when the sun shines 24 hours a day, even when the air gently warms, these peaks remain eternal. They simply refuse to change. They stand still like guardians of time. And in their immovable endurance, there is a deep, mysterious strength. A reminder that some things in this world remain constant, regardless of all that happens around them. Yet beneath that timeless ice lie lakes, real, liquid lakes. Thousands of meters of ice above them, and still they do not freeze. Their waters hold life of which we know almost nothing, because these realms are sealed, lightless, isolated for millions of years. Imagine water that has never seen the sky, that has never felt the wind, that lies in absolute silence, in black, thick darkness. This is not simply water. This is the Earth's dream. A dream so long that time itself loses edges. Polar regions are places where day and night operate by different laws. When the sun rises, it stays, for months. When it leaves, it disappears, into a night so long that one might forget the nature of daylight. Polar day is an endless gold along the horizon, dim and gentle like a distant lantern. Polar night is deep, restful darkness in which sounds become different, almost more truthful. There is something meditative in these cycles, something that teaches patience, acceptance, calm. In the polar rhythm, the Earth breathes more slowly. Yet not all is quiet there. Some regions of Antarctica are the windiest on the planet. The wind can arrive like a wall, and yet it does not sound like violence, more like a long, heavy exhale, as though the Earth takes a forceful breath only to return again to its slow rhythm. Even this wind, the fiercest on Earth, feels in the nighttime quiet like part of a vast symphony where every sound belongs to the planet's breathing. There is a place called the coldest of all, where temperatures fall so low that the air becomes brittle like glass. It seems as though breath itself would freeze in the lungs. Yet within that cold is astonishing beauty. Light refracts differently. The air becomes more transparent. Shadows grow longer. Even silence grows purer. Cold seems to clear the world, leaving only the essentials: light, air, breath. But amid this whiteness lies a sight that startles: a waterfall tinted deep red. They call it Antarctica's Blood Falls. Water erupts from a glacier, colored by iron, spilling onto white snow with a contrast so stark it feels unreal. Red on white, warm on cold, life upon the canvas of eternity. This waterfall reminds us that even in the coldest places on Earth, the planet can create something vivid, lively, unexpected. And at last, beneath these kilometers of ice lie mountains, entire ranges, entire chains, mountains no human eye has ever seen. They are far below, but they exist, as real as the Alps or the Himalayas. These subglacial mountains are like secret rooms in the great house of Earth, enclosed, hidden, protected in eternal frost. And the thought that beneath this smooth white surface lies a world of peaks and valleys and slopes makes one's heartbeat slow just a little. Softer, deeper. Polar regions are where the Earth becomes honest, where it reveals its original nature, where time flows differently, where each sound is rare, where each movement is significant, where cold is not an enemy, but a keeper. And when you hear these stories at night, perhaps you feel your internal rhythm quieting, a kind of inner coolness rising, not freezing, but cleansing. Thoughts slowing like snowfall, slow, gentle, effortless. Because at the poles, the world unfolds in silence. And in that silence lies everything needed to fall asleep. When we look at the sky in daytime, it seems simple: blue or gray, clear or clouded. But at night, when the gaze becomes deeper, when thoughts move slower, the heavens reveal themselves differently. Beyond the layer of clouds begins an enormous living realm, where air moves, where light pulses, where phenomena unfold with such quiet majesty that it feels as though the sky itself has its own secret heart. There is a place on Earth where lightning strikes constantly, not once a week, not a handful of times a day, but thousands of times in a single night. This is not chaos, not destruction, but almost a ritual of nature. Light igniting again and again, as though the sky blinks thoughtfully in slow rhythm. These lightning flashes resemble the pulses of a great celestial heart. They do not frighten. Rather, they remind us that even the most powerful forces can be rhythmic, predictable, calming, like breathing. And where a great river flows into a lake, there exists an eternal storm. It has not ceased for centuries. The sky above Venezuela flashes like a lantern someone forgot to extinguish. Night there is never truly dark. This storm is called the lighthouse of the heavens, because its light can be seen from far distances. And yet within its persistence lies something incredibly soothing, like the sound of rain that lasts through the night, like a fire crackling for hours. The storm reminds us, Even a storm can be gentle if it becomes part of the world itself.
There are places where the sky glows on its own. Not brightly, not like the northern lights, but with a subtle, dim luminescence, almost invisible to the naked eye. This soft glow is the breathing of the atmosphere. Molecules of air quietly emit light at night, creating a faint halo around the planet. Seen from space, it looks as though Earth is wrapped in a pale blue veil. And the thought that even our atmosphere can shine in darkness is comforting, like a night lamp in a peaceful room. In another corner of the world, the air is so pure it feels weightless, so transparent that the horizon seems endless, so clean that breathing becomes deeper on its own. The mountains of Antarctica and the plateaus of the Arctic hold the world's purest air, without scent, without dust, without the trace of human presence. This air could be called silent, and inhaling it, one might imagine that the world could be as clear inside us as it is outside, if we allow our thoughts to settle. But deserts are not made only of sand. There exist deserts of snow. Places where so little precipitation falls that the snowy plains lie in absolute dryness. A white emptiness where the wind plays with crystals the way it plays with grains of sand on dunes. Only the movement is almost invisible. The snow there feels like frozen breath of winter, breath that never melts, yet also never falls. There is a place on our planet where the temperature in the shade is far higher than under the burning sun of the Sahara. These are deep gorges where air cannot escape and heat becomes trapped between stone walls. And yet, stepping a short distance away, one might find a cool, almost icy corridor of air. Nature plays with its elements, creating worlds where heat and cold coexist only meters apart. Hot winds and cold rivers of air flow side by side, like two breaths of one planet, one warm, one cool. There are places where clouds never form, not because the land is too dry or too hot, but because the air is so stable that no vapor rises, no droplets gather into cumulus shapes. The sky there is a pure dome, and when one looks at it, a strange feeling emerges, as though one is looking into space without edge, without curvature, without time. A sky without clouds is like a blank page waiting to hold any dream. And now imagine rain, made of fish. Yes, this is real. When strong water vortices lift small fish from lakes or rivers, they spiral through the air until wind releases them somewhere far away. People watch this and marvel, but to nature, it is simply the dance of air currents, not a miracle, but motion. Rain of fish reminds us that in this world, almost anything is possible if the elements are given time and freedom. High in the atmosphere occur phenomena rarely noticed, enormous airwaves. They can be vast as mountain ranges. They move slowly, but with great force, lifting and lowering the air as though the atmosphere were an ocean. Aircraft fly through these waves without knowing their full scale. And if one imagines these aerial ridges at night while falling asleep, they appear as massive, soft folds of sky, moving as gently as waves on a quiet sea. The atmosphere is the body of the earth, its skin, its breath, its voice. Every wind is one of its thoughts. Every rain is one of its emotions. Every calm sky is one of its pauses. When you hear these facts in the nighttime quiet, they stop being information. They become rhythm, a sleepy, calming, wave-like rhythm.
a rhythm you can feel in your own breath. Because the atmosphere is not merely air, it is the space in which we live, breathe, dream. It is an ocean, only invisible. And every gust of wind, every stillness of it, helps us become just a little calmer. And perhaps, while you listened, your breath became softer, your eyes heavier, your thoughts further away. That is natural. You are moving in the same rhythm as the sky. For the sky does not sleep. It only glows, breathes, and tells its quiet stories. Sometimes it feels as though the earth beneath our feet is unmoving, solid, dependable, steady. But this is only the view from the surface. If one listens more quietly, more deeply, more attentively, it becomes clear. The earth is constantly moving. It lives just as oceans do, as the atmosphere does, as forests do. Only its rhythm is slower, much slower. And that slowness makes it especially soothing. For example, the continents themselves, the immense plates of land, drift. Slowly, yes, but always moving. So slow that a human lifetime will not perceive even a millimeter. But if one expands the sense of time, thousands, millions of years, the continents become wanderers, always searching for their place. Once, Africa lay close to America. Once, India was an island, journeying northward until it collided with Asia and lifted the Himalayas. All the land masses are like ships on an unimaginably slow ocean of the deep interior, drifting without haste. And when you understand this, it becomes clear. Even the solid ground beneath you moves, softly, silently, in its own deep rhythm. But beneath this motion lies something even more astonishing, an enormous underground ocean. Not like the familiar seas filled with tides and fish, but an ocean of water dissolved within minerals, hidden thousands of kilometers below the surface. Scientists say that in these depths there may be more water than in all the world's oceans combined. It does not flow, it does not splash, it does not ripple. It exists like a silent memory of the planet, unseen, but profoundly important. The underground ocean is Earth's internal breath, and the thought that beneath us lies an entire world of water is comforting, like knowing there is something vast and steady nearby. Deep below, there are stones that travel. Not stones moved by wind or rivers, but rocks inside the Earth's crust that slowly rise, sink, shift like dense, slow-moving fluid. They move under pressure, under heat, under the force of time. One stone may complete a long journey, from the deep to the surface and back down again. Each migration happens at such a slow rate that it resembles sleep more than movement. There are rocks that sing as well. This happens when wind passes through fissures or caves, creating harmonic vibrations, or when massive glaciers grind against stone, producing deep, resonant tones, like the hum of a distant organ. Sometimes it feels as though the mountains themselves sing, low, steady, wordless. This song is not music in the usual sense. It is vibration of the world, something one can feel through the skin if one stands quietly enough. In some parts of the world, the Earth rises each year by a millimeter, by two, very slightly, but consistently. This is caused by shifting plates, by land rebounding after ancient glaciers melted, by movements deep below. The Earth seems to lift itself, like a sleeping figure gently changing position. The rising happens so slowly that no one feels it, yet it is constant, persistent. And that quiet motion makes Earth alive, not only at its surface, but deep inside. Far below lie immense caves, vast enough to compare to cities. Some are so large that hot air balloons could float inside. But size is not what astonishes the most. What astonishes is the silence. In these caves, sound disappears instantly. The air within is so dense and still that it absorbs each word. Light behaves differently too, not reflecting sharply, but dissolving softly into stone. Inside such a cavern, one feels as though one stands in the warm, silent heart of the earth, protected, surrounded, filled with ancient quiet. In the depths of time, there are underground forests, not the green ones we know, but petrified. Once they were living trees, feeling wind, rain, sun. Then time covered them with sand, mud, ash. Layers built up, pressure transformed trunks into stone. And now before us stands a forest that no longer grows, but still stands. Trees without leaves, roots embedded in stone ground. It is like discovering a dream frozen forever in time. There are places where the ground cracks open on its own, not from heat, not from drought, but from the internal motion of the planet. Such fissures can appear unexpectedly, splitting land into fragments. They look like wounds, but in truth, they are simply Earth's breathing. It expands, compresses, shifts shape. Like any living organism, it moves even if we do not notice it.
Elsewhere beneath the surface flow rivers of lava. Real rivers, hot, glowing, slow. They move through subterranean tunnels, sometimes rising toward the surface, sometimes remaining deep, lighting up stone chambers with radiant heat. To look upon lava is to look upon the heart of the earth beating in fire. And that heartbeat too is surprisingly calm, slow, dense, steady. Perhaps one of the most magical geological phenomena is ancient rain printed in stone. Sometimes on the surface of rock, one can see small circular dimples, marks left by raindrops that fell millions of years ago. Rain that no longer exists, clouds that are long gone, skies no one living ever saw. And yet the marks remain. When one gazes at those impressions, one understands time can preserve even what seems fleeting. A raindrop, a moment lasting only a fraction of a second, can become part of eternity. All these phenomena, drifting continents, underground oceans, singing cliffs, moving stones, rising land, colossal caves, petrified forests, fissured grounds, rivers of lava, ancient raindrop imprints. These are the language of the planet. Its gestures, its breath, its slow movements so gentle that the human eye does not see them. But at night, when thoughts grow quiet, when awareness softens, when the body relaxes, one can feel that rhythm. One can imagine the continent beneath gently sliding, the hidden ocean resting below, the mountains humming in wind, the caverns slumbering in the deep, the ancient rain forever fixed in stone. And from this understanding, thoughts become calmer, much calmer. Because if the planet itself lives so slowly, so deeply, so unhurriedly, then we too can allow ourselves rest. We can allow breath to lengthen, the spine to soften, the voice to fade, the mind to blur like mist. Because in geological secrets, there is something that lulls, not loudness, not tension, but stillness, certainty, depth. The Earth has been alive for billions of years. It has time for everything. And so do you. In your rhythm, in your calm, in your sleep.
When we hear the word landscape, we tend to imagine something immobile. Mountains, valleys, forests, plains. We assume they stand for centuries, like shapes carved out of time. But if one listens at night, not with the ears, but with something deeper, one can sense that landscapes are alive. They breathe, they move, they change as gently as oceans and wind. Only their rhythm is slower than our perception. A forest, for example, can move. Not like an animal, not with steps, but with a soft, subtle migration. As trees slowly claim new spaces and old areas recede, the forest reshapes its borders. Somewhere it advances a few centimeters each year, where seeds find open ground. Elsewhere it retreats, where cold or dryness halts growth. If one could watch long enough, one would see the forest as a vast wave of life, flowing across centuries. It does not stand still. It moves. Forward, sideways, upward, downward. The forest is the planet's breathing, slow, confident, unending. Beside the forests live other travelers, the sand dunes. They shift under the wind, sometimes migrating dozens of meters in a year. Grain by grain, they roll over the crest of the dune, changing its shape, height, silhouette. Sometimes dunes swallow whole oases or villages. Sometimes they recede, leaving smooth, bare expanses behind. Their motion resembles an enormous sleeping creature turning over in its dream. Slow, weighty, unhurried, yet unstoppable. Life moves not only on land. There are plants that orient themselves by the stars. It seems unbelievable, but some species respond to the night sky and use it as a compass. They open their flowers in certain patterns when certain constellations rise overhead. Their gestures are quiet, almost invisible, but always precise, as though the plants speak to the heavens, as though they hear light we cannot see. Life persists even in places where we would never expect it. There are organisms that live in boiling water, in hot springs where temperatures exceed what would burn human skin. These tiny beings thrive where metal melts faster than it cools. They live in steaming water as peacefully as fish in a pond. Their world is a world of fire. And yet it too is part of Earth's gentle living geography. Deeper still, beneath the soil, below layers of stone where no light and no warmth and no oxygen reach, exists another universe. There live organisms that have never seen the sun, never felt wind. They feed on chemical reactions happening inside rock, inside minerals, inside the very bones of the earth. Their life is silence, full, impenetrable silence. And even there, the pulse of existence persists, only slowed to the pace of geological time. On the surface, life communicates. Trees speak to each other, not with words, but through root networks. Beneath the ground stretch vast webs of mycelium that link trees into a living community. One tree can warn another of pests, can share nutrients, can help a weaker sapling survive. A forest is not a collection of trees. It is an organism, large, quiet, connected, and each of its cells lives not alone, but in conversation with others. Some forests, however, have long since turned to stone. Forests of rock. Once they were green, rustling, vibrant. Then volcanic ash covered them, or the mud of floods, or the sands of ages. Time pressed down upon them until wood transformed into stone. And now stand stone trunks, as real as living ones, only silent, solid, unbreathing. The petrified forests are the memory of the planet, moments of time that Earth chose not to release. Yet life remains in even the smallest, least noticed forms. Take moss. They are Earth's ancient conquerors, the first to step onto land, the first to build soil, the first to dress stone in green. Moss can live on cold cliffs, on hardened lava, on old trees, on rooftops. It can survive drought, freeze, fire, long centuries of stillness. Moss is the gentle green voice of Earth, one that lived here long before forests existed.
There are plants that survived the Ice Age. They hid in narrow valleys, in cracks in stone, in places where wind carried a little warmth. They endured ages of cold, darkness, glacier, and when the ice finally withdrew, they blossomed again. Their leaves are like songs of ancient eras, their seeds like tiny messages from time long dissolved. These plants are symbols of endurance, quiet strength, patient survival. Perhaps one of the most unusual places on Earth are the valleys of eternal shadow, places where sunlight never reaches, not at dawn, not at dusk, not in summer, never. The ice inside such valleys remains unchanged for millennia. The temperature, always colder than ice. Light never touches the ground. To us, such places seem frightening, empty, cold. But to Earth, they are part of its breathing, its storage of memory, its quiet corner where it hides the most fragile traces of the past. Living landscapes are not just natural settings, they are gentle motions of the planet. They are the forces that make the world alive. Forests shift, dunes travel, stone woods stand frozen, moss returns, plants survive epochs, underground life thrives without light. And all this occurs at once, without haste, without noise, without words. If one listens at night, when the body is already relaxed, one can feel as though Earth itself tells a story. Not with a voice, but with its rhythm. Slow, measured, deep. One can imagine the forest moving a millimeter, the dune shifting a centimeter, the moss rooting itself into a crack in stone, the ancient plant opening its first leaf after 1,000 years of quiet sleep. And at that moment it becomes clear. The world is alive. Even stone is alive. Even shadow is alive. Even silence is alive. And if the world is alive, then within us awakes a quiet life that helps us relax, slow down, grow calm. For living landscapes drift in dream. And now, it is time for you to do the same.
Sometimes it seems that humans are beings who exist apart from nature. We build cities, lay roads, draw maps, mark borders. But when you look at all of this at night, when the world grows quieter, it becomes clear. The human being is as much a part of Earth as the rivers, as the mountains, as the winds. We live within geography. We shape it, and it shapes us. Our cities, paths, houses, stories. These are also movements of the planet, simply on a human scale. Somewhere on Earth once lived a man who was called the most isolated person. He lived on an island surrounded by endless ocean, and the nearest inhabited home was hundreds of kilometers away. Sometimes loneliness seems like emptiness, but on such islands, loneliness becomes space. The voices of wind, the rhythm of waves, the cries of birds become the only companions. And when a person lives so far from other people, he becomes close to Earth itself. He listens to it. He knows its rhythm, and perhaps understands it more deeply than others. Elsewhere, roads vanish, not because they are destroyed, but because they sink beneath the sea. There are regions where tides are so high that entire roads are visible only for a few hours each day. The rest of the time they lie hidden beneath the water. And humans must wait, not for a car, not for a traffic light, but for the ocean itself. The road appears like a thought, like inspiration, then disappears again, like a dream. These roads remind us, we walk the land only when the land allows it. There are cities built directly on water, not beside it, not near a river, but upon water. Houses rest on stilts, streets are canals, and boats are the vehicles. Every sound becomes softer there. Footsteps dampen, voices reflect through water, and nightlights glide along the surface with such calm that it feels as though the city itself is floating. To live on water is to live between elements, between Earth and its reflection, between solid and liquid. And it makes such cities incredibly peaceful, as though they exist in an endless, unhurried dream. Sometimes the border runs so close to a person that it passes through their home. There is a place where the boundary between two countries runs directly through a building. The kitchen is in one nation, the living room in another. One step to the right, different law. One step to the left, different state. It feels both amusing and deeply symbolic. We draw lines and divide space, yet Earth remains a single, shared home. And sometimes she gently reminds us of this, like a border running through a single wall. There are climates that have erased entire civilizations. When drought lasted for decades, when rivers disappeared, when forests became deserts, entire peoples moved away, not because they wished to, but because the earth changed its rules. And these vanished civilizations are not tragedy, they are reminders. We live in a world larger than ourselves. Climate is the breath of the planet, and sometimes it is too deep for humans to withstand. Yet there is beauty in this, in the fact that Earth is not static, that it is alive, that history is a dialogue, not a monologue. Some settlements on Earth are so ancient that people lived in them long before writing existed. Villages that stood before the first cities. Cities that persisted while empires rose and fell around them. Humans who walked the same stones we might step upon today. It is a strange feeling to realize the ground beneath your feet holds the footsteps of thousands of generations. Each step, a small story, a small sound. a small imprint that makes the world deeper. There are also places where dying is forbidden, not because someone invented a strange law, but because the earth does not accept bodies. In some regions, it is so cold that buried bodies do not decompose. They remain as they were for many years. And so people there are not buried. They are taken elsewhere. The earth itself seems to say, here, only life, only motion, only those who continue on. This is not frightening. This reminds us that even death is dependent on geography. There are cities that live upon volcanoes, upon slopes, upon land that can tremble at any moment. People there grow grapes, build homes, celebrate weddings at the foot of enormous volcanic cones. They live beside fire, yet they do not fear, because they know Earth may be dangerous, but it is home. And even when fire flows within it, Earth remains a place where one can love, laugh, raise children. This makes humans and land beautifully similar. There are countries so small that one could walk across them in an hour. Places where the border is simply a street, where the main square is half the size of a football field. Yet these tiny nations hold deep history, culture, tradition. They feel like small islands of meaning hidden inside a great ocean. And in their smallness lies a special comfort. Size does not diminish life. It makes it warmer, more concentrated, more intimate. Yet the oldest part of human geography is the trail. Paths where humans have walked for thousands of years. Routes that existed long before roads were conceived. Tracks carved into earth by the steps of lives. Some of these trails are still visible in mountains, forests, deserts. They are lines of time, lines of movement, lines through which human life once flowed, slowly, gently, in rhythm with nature. Humanity and geography are inseparable. We do not merely live on a planet, we are woven into it. Our cities grow like forests. Our roads vanish like rivers. Our homes rest upon borders like trees along shores. Our trails are roots. Our histories are soil layers. Our civilizations are tides. And when we look at all this at night, we understand. We are part of a vast, gentle movement. We are part of Earth. We are one of its breaths. And that understanding makes sleep deeper, quieter, safer. Because if the planet itself holds us in its hands, we can finally allow ourselves to rest. There are places on Earth that one wants to speak about in a whisper. Places where the planet seems to slow its heartbeat, where breathing becomes longer than thought, where space is so soft that you feel just a little more, and it will wrap around you like a warm blanket. And if one listens at night, when the world has nearly dissolved into darkness, one can hear the quietest, most tender geographical wonders, the ones we rarely remember in the daylight. Somewhere on Earth, there are rivers that flow so slowly that they make no sound, no splash, no murmur, only motion, so gentle that it appears motionless. These rivers are like the slow breath of a sleeping human, like a soft exhale that lasts a minute. Standing beside such a river, one feels that it does not merely move, it cradles the space around it. It seems to say, do not hurry, everything will unfold on its own. And the water listens, and you do too. Where forest meets cool air, the mist begins to sing. Not in a literal sense, of course, but when thin, moist air threads itself between branches, it creates sounds, tender, barely audible, like a distant whisper. Sometimes it resembles a gentle sigh, sometimes the breath of a hidden spring, sometimes a melody that belongs to neither human nor bird nor wind. It is a song of space, a song of mist that brushes leaves so carefully, as though afraid to wake the sleeping forest. There is water that glows at night. Phosphorescent waves along certain shores look as if the ocean suddenly decided to smile. Each wave, a soft blue spark. Each step on wet sand, a scattering of tiny, shining footprints. And when the night is truly dark and the sea is truly calm, one feels that the water becomes pure light, living, quiet, as though the ocean briefly opened its eyes in sleep, just for a moment, to look at the stars reflected in its own surface. There are places where silence is absolute, so complete that your own breathing becomes loud, so complete that you can hear blood moving through your ears. In such places, silence is not frightening, but filling. It is dense like wool. It wraps, warms, holds. It is silence that is not empty, but full, filled with itself, as though the earth there whispers, "This space is for rest, for pause, for deep sleep." And the ocean, which seems so vast and restless by day, begins at night to breathe, not with waves, with breath, drawing in and releasing in long, slow pulses. Each ebb tide, a deep exhale. Each rising tide, a soft inhale. And somewhere on a beach, if you lie upon the sand, you can feel that rhythm in your body, in your skin, in your bones. The ocean seems to tell the world, I am here, I am alive, I am near. Sleep peacefully. As for deserts, under moonlight they turn silver. Not yellow, not gold, but silver. Each dune, a smooth, cool wave. Each shadow, deep and blue. A desert in moonlight looks like another dimension, infinite, yet not intimidating. It seems to have stopped time, to have held it still, to have said, wait a little, let humanity sleep. And time actually pauses. The desert can do this. Its nocturnal light is so quiet that it turns space into dream. There are mountains that look like clouds, so white, so soft, so softly blurred in morning light that one wonders, is it stone or mist? Some peaks are covered with such delicate snow that their harsh lines disappear. The mountains become part of the sky, floating, gentle, almost ephemeral. And looking at them at dawn, one feels they might just drift upward and dissolve, like a dream forgotten upon waking. There is snow that glows. In certain cold seas, tiny ice particles emit a faint blue radiance when they crack or melt. Snow beneath your feet may shimmer slightly, as though holding tiny stars inside. Not brightly, not urgently, but as though it stored light all day to give it back to the night in tiny portions. That light does not dazzle, it soothes, like a night lamp, like a candle flame, like the memory that even in darkness, something warm remains. And sometimes the air smells like cold, It has no precise description, not sweet, not salty, not bitter, but pure, clear, as though it was created just this moment. In the mountains, the air smells of snow. In the north, of ice. In the desert night, of a coolness so fine it is almost weightless. The scent of cold is the scent of space, the scent of clarity, the scent of tranquility. And there are stones that hold warmth for thousands of years. They were once part of magma, part of fire, part of a volcano's heart. Inside them remains a trace of heat, not physically, but in their structure, in their memory. If you place your palm on such ancient rock, you might feel it as warm, not with your skin, but with your awareness, as though it remembers everything, how it flowed, how it cooled, how it became foundation for mountains, deserts, rivers. Stones are Earth's oldest keepers. They have outlived everything, and still they simply rest, calm, quiet, assured. All these phenomena, the quiet rivers, the singing mist, the glowing sea, the absolute silence, the breathing ocean, the silver deserts, the cloud-like mountains, the shimmering snow, the cold-scented air, and the memory-holding stones. These are the gentle side of geography. Not loud, not dangerous, but sleepy, tender, deep. These facts feel as though they were made for nighttime, to make the world quieter, to make the breath longer, to make the body feel held, to let thoughts drift away like tide withdrawing from shore. Because Earth is not only dynamism, motion, energy, it is also cradle. And when it reveals its softer wonders, we understand it can lull, it can comfort, it can hold. And now, listening to this warm, slow part, you may feel the world becoming a bit softer, a bit broader, a bit calmer. This is Earth. This is its quiet side. And it is for you. And now, as our journey comes to an end, as we softly pass through oceans and deserts, through glaciers and mists, through ancient stones and living forests, as we saw the Earth not as a map, but as a breath, not as a surface, but as a heart, the quietest moment arrives. The moment when the world around you drifts a little farther away, when the air becomes softer, when the body grows slightly heavier, as though it has found the right position, the right shape, the right rhythm. Everything you've heard wasn't just information. It was a staircase, a slow, peaceful set of steps by which you descended from the daytime tempo into the nighttime breath. Listen inside yourself. There is more quiet now. Thoughts have lengthened. The body no longer needs to hold itself up. The world no longer presses, but supports. This is natural. This is how it should be. You have undergone a small journey across the whole planet, but in truth, into yourself. The Earth has shown you its depths, its quiet, its rhythms, its softness. And it does this every day, every night, even when we forget to listen. But tonight you listened. You allowed the world to sit beside you, allowed yourself to slow down, allowed your body to remember that rest is not a luxury, but a part of movement. Now, as the night wraps you in gentle light, you might imagine the Earth continuing to breathe nearby.
Its oceans making a long inhale, its winds a soft exhale, its forests whispering slow sounds of darkness, its mountains resting in silence like large, peaceful animals guarding the sleep of all living things. And you are part of that rhythm. Not a guest, not an observer, a part. When you inhale, the world inhales. When you slow down, your inner ocean slows. When you allow yourself to rest, the earth holds that rest as steadily as it holds oceans, continents, forests. Feel how your breathing has become slow, how gently the chest rises, how softly it falls, as though each movement is wider than the body, as though you are breathing not only with your lungs, but with the space around you.
And if you close your eyes now, you might imagine yourself as a grain of sand in a vast desert, being touched softly by moonlight, or a small wave that rises and sinks with the tide, or a leaf that has fallen onto a silent river and now simply drifts wherever the current carries it. You may be anything: wind, water, stone, stillness. Because tonight, there is no requirement to remain yourself. Tonight, there is only rest. You have traveled across the planet, but the greatest journey was the one from tension to softness, from thought to breath, from wakefulness to sleep. Thank you for being here, for listening, for allowing yourself to move slowly, for giving the earth a chance to show you its quietest side, for trusting the voice, the rhythm, the silence. Sometimes the most important thing is not to know, but to feel. Not to remember, but to allow. Not to hold, but to release. And now that moment arrives, the moment when nothing more is required of you. The world is vast, and it will continue its motion. The oceans will breathe, the winds will drift, the mountains will stand, the forests will grow, the stones will retain their warmth. And you may simply be, simply lie, simply breathe. Simply let your body dissolve into the soft darkness of night. Feel your eyelids grow heavier, your thoughts grow quieter, the space around you widen, and sleep step closer, softly, gently, as though it touches your shoulder with its fingertips. Let everything heard tonight become a soft background at the edge of awareness. Let the earth become your blanket. Let the night become your space. Let breath become your rhythm. Sleep well. Rest deeply. Let the earth hold you in its gentle hands. It has done so for millions of years, and tonight, it does so for you. You are home. You are in quiet. You may rest.